Good morning. Victory. Michael Jackson not guilty on all counts. This morning, Jackson's lead attorney, Tom Mesereau, speaks out for the first time since the verdict right here on Today. And inside the jury room, at least one juror thinks Jackson may be a child molester, so why did he vote to acquit? He'll tell us today, June 14th, 2005.
From NBC News, this is Today with Katie Couric and Matt Lauer. Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And good morning and welcome to Today on a Tuesday morning. I'm Matt Lauer.
And I'm Katie Couric. Welcome back from your long weekend to a very big news story.
Wow.
That's right. And it is a good morning for Michael Jackson, as we know, Matt, because he's waking up at the Neverland Ranch today for the first time in a year and a half without a huge weight hanging over his head. The jury spoke loud and clear, not guilty on all 10 counts.
And we're covering all angles of the trial this morning. And as we mentioned, we've got the first interview since the verdict with Jackson's lead attorney, Tom Mesereau. Some say he is the new Johnny Cochran. We'll ask him about that. And did the accuser's mother kill the case for the prosecution? We'll talk to two members of the jury.
And then, Matt, what is next for Michael Jackson now that he's been acquitted? Can he reclaim his title as the King of Pop, or is his career, in fact, history? We've got lots of other news to cover this morning as well. On Monday, we gave you a sneak peek of the new King Tut exhibit opening in Los Angeles this week. Today, we're going to step further, taking you live to Egypt for a rare look inside King Tut's tomb. Then from the Boy King to America's newest pop princess, American Idol winner Carrie Underwood performs live out on the plaza. We're both looking forward to that. I know you met her when you were on The Tonight Show, right?
She was just fresh off her victory, and she could not be more kind of just wonderful and nice and in awe of the whole process.
Wide-eyed and wholesome,
Yeah.
right? And how's this for relaxing in the spotlight? She apparently rehearsed this morning in her pajama bottoms and
go
slippers.
there.
I don't know if it was a tribute to Michael Jackson or not.
Looking forward to hearing from her. But first, let's talk about this Michael Jackson story. It's a clean sweep for Michael Jackson. NBC's Mike Taibbi has been covering the trial from the very beginning. He's outside Jackson's Neverland Ranch this morning. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matt. Well, after a trial that consumed a winter and a spring, this saga of the most internationally famous celebrity ever brought to trial on serious felony charges finally came to an end. A nervous Michael Jackson summoned from his Neverland home, a packed courtroom awaiting him, then the audio feed of the verdict.
Count one, verdict. Not guilty. Count two, not guilty. Count three, not.
One by one, 10 times in all, Jackson heard the words "not guilty" to each of the charges against him. And outside the courthouse, his fans heard it too. It turned out the jurors never bought the story told by Jackson's now 15-year-old accuser, at least not beyond a reasonable doubt. Perhaps even more critically, they couldn't stand the boy's mother, who in 5 days on the stand put on a performance that was by turns baffling, incredible, and off-putting.
I disliked it intensely when she snapped her fingers at us. That's when I thought, don't snap your fingers at me, lady.
One juror said he believed Jackson might have molested a child in the past. Another juror said she didn't like Jackson's admitted practice of sharing his bed with boys, but said the mother in this case had to share the blame.
What mother in her right mind would allow that to happen?
For District Attorney Tom Snedden, the verdict was a total wipeout after a dozen years of pursuing child molestation charges against Jackson. He said it wasn't personal.
My past history of Mr. Jackson had absolutely, unequivocally, nothing to do with our evaluation of this particular case.
And he said he'll put this verdict behind him.
You never look back, you always look forward.
Not so Jackson's family, who gathered last night at Neverland and repeated their belief that the whole case was a conspiracy against Michael.
The people who are in authority weren't so nice. And you know who I'm speaking of. Those were the ones who weren't so nice and who concocted this whole thing.
But conspiracy theories are on the back burner right now. What matters to the Lord of this manor is that 12 of his neighbors, none living as grandly as he, agreed to see him and judge him on the evidence, just as his attorney had urged them to do.
He's someone else, just like anyone else who deserves a fair trial.
The trial over, another juror said she'd start thinking about it and reading about it in about a month. For now, she said, she is all Jacksoned out. Matt?
And that may apply to you too, Mike. Nice job covering this trial over the last several months. Thanks very much. And now, here's Katie.
Matt, thank you. Tom Mesereau was Michael Jackson's lead defense attorney. This is his very first interview since the verdict. Tom Mesereau, good morning to you.
Morning, Katie.
Before I get your reaction to the verdict, let me ask you about Michael Jackson. So, according to people who watched him as the verdicts were read, he seemed not to have a reaction, and then he wiped a tear from his eye beneath his glasses. You got a chance to talk with him. What was his reaction?
Well, he's very relieved, and he's also very exhausted. He feels wonderful about his family not having to undergo any more of this. But it's going to be a period of recovery for him because physically he deteriorated, he wasn't sleeping, he wasn't eating well, and it was a terrible ordeal for him.
Emotionally, what is his current state?
I would say that he's going to take it one day at a time. He's going to get some sleep. He's going to be around his family and just start building for the future. But it's been a terrible, terrible process for him.
I know you went to the Neverland Ranch last night. Can you describe what the atmosphere was like, who was there, what was going on?
His family were there. They were all praying to God and thanking God for all his help that he had given them throughout the trial. They were all very grateful. It was not a super jubilant type of thing. It was a very serious, solemn expression of gratitude.
Meanwhile, this is a huge legal accomplishment for you and puts you in a whole new category of trial attorneys in this country. How did you feel emotionally when this verdict was read?
Well, I always thought we'd win the case. I never thought the prosecution had a case at all. They tried to make a lot out of nothing. It didn't succeed. We had a jury of very fair-minded, independent, honorable, courageous people, and I always thought we'd win the case.
Well, tried to make a lot out of nothing. What do you mean by that?
They put on witnesses who were lacking in credibility. They did everything they could to try and hold them up in ways that just didn't make any sense. A lot of their theories and arguments made no sense, and they didn't have a case. And Michael Jackson's innocent.
Was there a key moment in your view, Mr. Mesereau, that really resulted in this non-guilty verdict?
No, I think we clobbered them throughout the trial. I think we cross-examined their witnesses very effectively. I think we destroyed a lot of the theories that they put forth, which were ridiculous. I think our witnesses blew them out even more, and I'm not surprised at the verdict. I'm very grateful to the jury, and I'm very grateful to Judge Melville for running a very orderly and very professional courtroom.
The vindication that Michael Jackson's supporters believe it is?
He's going to live a wonderful life because he's a wonderful person with a wonderful family. He's got an unlimited future, and he will do very well.
Well, Tom Mesereau, we so appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It is 7:12. Once again, here's Matt.
All right, Katie, thanks. Now to the jury in the case. They deliberated nearly 30 hours over 7 days before setting Michael Jackson free. Raymond Holtman and Pauline Kakos were jurors on this trial. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Matt.
Raymond, let me start with you. You are the juror we've been referring to who has said after the verdict that you believe Michael Jackson had molested boys, and yet you voted to acquit. Take me through the thinking.
Well, Matt, this whole trial wasn't about what you believe. It was about determining whether or not Michael Jackson was guilty of the charges in the case. And we had to look at 10 very specific charges dealing with very specific items and very specific timelines. I was disturbed about some of the evidence in the case, as you know, and anyone can develop their own belief as to what that means.
Well, let me just interrupt, Raymond, for a second. Do you think that Michael Jackson molested the boy in question in this case, the accuser?
No, I don't. I believe that there's reasonable doubt because of a number of factors, and that was what the case was all about. I mean, there was a lot of evidence presented, but it didn't lead me to believe that it erased the unreasonable doubt or it erased the reasonable doubt, rather, in this case.
Paulina, you said this in the post-trial press conference. You said, what mother in her right mind would allow that to happen, or, just freely volunteer your child, to sleep with someone? In your opinion, did this boil down to the mother of this accuser?
It had a lot to do with it. You can't deny that you would expect her behavior to be a little better, more responsible.
But do you think she set this up, that she placed her son in that position simply for financial gain?
I guess I want to hesitate to answer that because I would be speculating, but she has to accept responsibility as an adult, as a parent, and it does affect your child tremendously, obviously. So she
an impact on you versus, and how would you